Okay, staff, are you ready? I'd like to call to order the July 10th, 2023 Richland County Planning Commission meeting. Staff, please confirm the following. In accordance with the Freedom of Information Act, a copy of the agenda was sent to the news media, persons requesting notification, and posted on the bulletin board located in the County Administration Building. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Staff, can you please take attendance for today's meeting?
All right. Attendance for the July 10th, 2023 Planning Commission. Those here, Yankee,
Here.
Frierson, Johnson, Dennis, Metz,
Here.
Durant,
Here.
Taylor, Sirks,
Here.
Grady.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, staff. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the July 10th, 2023 Richland County Planning Commission meeting. As planning commissioners, we are concerned residents of Richland County who volunteer our time to thoroughly review and make recommendations to County Council. Our recommendations are to approve or deny zoning map amendment requests. Per Title VI, Chapter 29 of the SC Code of Laws, Planning Commission may also prepare and revise plans and programs for the development or redevelopment of unincorporated portions of the county. The county's land development code rewrite process conducted this past year is an example of this. Once again, we are a recommending body to County Council, and they will conduct their own public hearing and take official votes to approve or deny map amendments and text amendments on a future date to be published by the county. Council typically holds zoning public hearings on the fourth Tuesday of the month. Please check the county's website for updated agendas, dates, and times. Please take note of the following guidelines for today's meeting. Please turn off or silence any cell phones. Audience members may come quietly and go as needed. Applicants are allowed up to 2 minutes to make statements. Citizens signed up to speak are allowed up to 2 minutes each. Redundant comments should be minimized. Please only address remarks to the commission and do not expect the commission to respond to questions from the speaker in a back and forth style. That's not the purpose of this meeting. Please no audience speaker exchanges. No audience demonstrations or other disruptions to the meeting are permitted, nor are comments from anyone other than the speaker at the podium. Please remember the meeting is being recorded. Please speak into the microphone and give your name and address. Abusive language is inappropriate and will not be tolerated. Please don't voice displeasure or frustration at a recommendation while the Planning Commission is still conducting business. If you have any questions or concerns, you may contact the Richland County Planning Department staff. Now we're on item number 3, additions or deletions to the agenda. Are there any motions for additions or deletions from the agenda? Staff?
Yes. I think the package that you received, it did have a couple of amendments to it, but however, those were sent out to you via email with those changes on it. Those are also reposted and sent out to the public with the correct version, and it's also the correct version is online. So I don't think you have to make any changes, but we wanted just to identify the 2 amendments to the original staff report, which was the changing of the date for the approval of minutes to June 5th, 2023, and also the staff recommendation for case 23-023 should have been for approval. It was originally listed as disapproval, but those were the only changes.
Thank you, staff. That we can move on to item number 4, the approval of minutes. Like you just said, we have in our packet the minutes from our June 5th, 2023 meeting. Do any commission members have any comments or concerns regarding these transcripts?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Mr. Grady.
I would just like to, prior to approval, have the minutes amended to note that I was in fact present at last month's meeting. I was not included at the top of the amendment, top of the minutes rather. as being present.
Thank you, Mr. Grady. After that, staff, could we add his name to the top?
That's been noted.
Okay. Amendments to the minutes? Okay, the chair makes a motion to approve the minutes with this amendment of adding Commissioner Grady's name to the top. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. With the second, staff, can you take a vote?
All right, those in favor of the approval of the minutes with the edit of adding Brian Grady as being present for the meeting, those in favor, Grady,
Aye.
Search,
Aye.
Durant,
Aye.
Nets,
Aye.
Yonke.
Aye.
All right, motion's approved.
Thank you, staff. Now we move on to number 5, which is our consent agenda. I want to explain the consent agenda. It's an action item that allows this commission to approve road names and map amendment requests, where one, the staff recommends approval. 2, no one from the public has signed up to speak against the amendment. Or 3, no member of the commission is in need of further discussion on the request. So today, Mr. Sirks, which cases do we have people signed up, or we can, let me rephrase that. What can we leave on the consent agenda today?
Mr. Chair, we can leave case number 23020MA on the consent agenda. Every other application we would need to pull from the consent agenda.
Thank you, Commissioner Sirks. So the chair makes a motion to approve the consent agenda. So 5A, the road names, and item 5B2, case number 23-020 for approval. Do I have a second?
Second.
A second from Commissioner Metz. With that, can we take a vote? Staff.
All right, those in favor of the consent agenda of the, yes, Search,
Aye.
Grady,
Aye.
Durant,
Aye.
Metz, Yonke.
Aye. Thanks again, staff. We will now move on. We are in item 5, looking at our map amendments, 5B. We're going to start with case number 1 today, case 23-019. Staff, please.
Okay, the first item is case 23-019MA. The applicant is Keisha Garrick. The location is 7730 Bluff Road. The applicant is requesting to rezone a little less than 3/4 of an acre, .73, from rural RU to neighborhood commercial, which is NC. Have to kind of take a look at this one. But staff did recommend disapproval of this request. Primarily, just looking at the area in which this request is located, it's really it is identified as being in a rural activity center. It's also part of the nodes of activity for rural crossroads as part of the Lower Richland Strategic Community Master Plan. Looking at the purpose of the rural commercial versus the purpose of the neighborhood commercial as found in the Land Development Code, and also looking at the objectives as identified within the comprehensive plan, one of the things that was taken of note is that the rural commercial really allows for a little more flexibility as far as the type of uses allowed. Those are both commercial and service type uses versus the NC. This doesn't get the same flexibility. And part of that flexibility can be found in the maximum lot sizes. Within the neighborhood commercial, the building footprint cannot exceed 6,000 square feet. You can do 12,000, of course, if you do a 2-story, but the footprint is 6,000 square feet. whereas in the rural commercial, you can go up to 20,000 square feet. So just kind of keeping in line with the purposes of each of these zoning designations and also looking at the objectives of the comprehensive plan, staff recommends disapproval of this request.
Staff, Commissioner Sirks, do we have an applicant here sign up to speak?
We do. Keisha Garrick.
Please remember to come to the podium, state your name and address. Sure, you're the applicant? Oh, okay, that's fine. Just state your name and address. And then Commissioner Sirks, please take a note.
Okay. My name is Robert Freeman Garrett, Sr. I'm Keisha's father. I'm 79 years old. I've been in Gaston all my life. I've been a businessman in Gaston for at least 40 years. This particular property was a store in the 50s when I was going to school. Miss Dawson used to own it. Mr. Green bought it, then turned it into another store. Then it changed from a convenience store, or old-time grocery store, whatever you want to say it. Mr. Burnett, who's part owner in Capital Supply on Two Knight Road, he bought it, turned it into a hardware store. When he retired, he let Mr. J.D. Lloyd have it. He ran it as a hardware store until last year. He had a stroke. He got blind. Mr. Burnett sold it to me and my daughter. I bought it for my daughter. It's already been a business for the last 60 or 70 years. I don't see how they can deny it now. And we didn't add nothing on the building. The building is in good shape. We went in, cleaned it up, and then fixed it up for a convenience store. We done paid all the front of it and everything. My thing is, if you turn this down, how can they let Dollar General come right there in a flooded area and put a store? I've been in business just about all my life in gas, at least 40 years. So I don't understand how can you turn it down? And it's been a business all the years, you know, up until JD got out of it, I think last year in May or June of last year. And I gave back more to Gaston than any other businessman ever been there. Ms. Bernie Scott can tell you that, Ms. Shirley Ings, any of them can tell you that. I do a lot for the community. That's it. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I think Commissioner Sirks, all signed up?
Did the applicant wish to speak?
Hi, my name is Keisha Garrick, and my father just spoke pretty much a lot. We grew up in the community. We owned a store since I was 5. That's down the street, and we're just trying to bring more to the community by changing it from the rural to another store, because we do own the other store that's down the street by Mr. Herbert Sims. Y'all had to rezone his also to change it to from rural to commercial. We actually renting that property also from him right now, so we're just trying to expand the business back again to the community to make it better. Because I grew up there since I was 5, and I'm 44 now. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have one more, it looks like Ann Garner.
Yeah, Garrett, it's my mother.
Oh.
She's not okay.
Okay. That's it. We have no one else to speak on this application.
Thank you for coming out to speak, and thank you, Commissioner Sirks. This is open on the floor now for the commission for discussion. Is there any questions for staff?
Chair,
Yes, Commissioner.
question for staff. Has this property been in a non-conforming use for the last few years?
Yeah, I'm sure if it was been operating during any time, it would have been under a non-conforming status, even from, so it would have been, we enacted zoning around 1978. So if it was operating during that time, it would have been non-conforming. But I'm sorry, I don't have it directly in front of me, but assumption is that as business has not operated, I guess over the last year or so, which would have helped to maintain the nonconformity.
Fair?
Yes, Commissioner Grady?
Question for staff on this one. Based on, and you can correct me if I'm mistaken here, it reads based on the conclusion of the recommendation that the main objection is that this request is for a neighborhood commercial as opposed to a rural commercial zoning. Is that an accurate assessment?
I think that's accurate. I think it's pretty accurate, Mr. Grady.
Okay, and you mentioned there was a difference in the footprint that would be allowed under the two different zoning types. You'll forgive me, I do not have the entire use table memorized. So if you could speak broadly to what types of structures are allowed under a neighborhood commercial that would not be allowed under a rural commercial, that would be helpful.
Yeah, my apologies. I actually meant to have that here. The uses are very similar. One of the things we found, there are a few uses that, I guess, based on the square footage allowance of the rural commercial zoning designation, were allowed within the rural commercial versus being allowed within the neighborhood commercial. I can just kind of go through the list. I'll just quickly identify a few. So, for example, a automobile towing, which doesn't include storage, but an automobile towing business is allowed in the rural commercial versus the neighborhood commercial. Furniture repair shops and upholstery, hotels and motels, janitorial services, kennels, all allowed in the rural commercial versus being allowed in the neighborhood commercial. And I think you can kind of see that a lot of those, due to the size of those, would be the difference. Minor repair and maintenance for automobiles is allowed. Repair and maintenance services for appliances and electronics. Rental centers without outside storage are all allowed in the rural commercial and not in the neighborhood commercial. Septic tank services are allowed. Taxidermists are also allowed, just for a few. I could read through the list, but I think you get the gist.
So if I understand this correctly, you're saying that the rural commercial is actually a broader,
Yes,
okay.
it is. And again, maybe, I'm sorry, I'll let you finish first.
No, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say is, unfortunately, I, dealt with Mr. Garrick, and his daughter also a couple of times over the years. So I'm aware of their previous businesses down there. This is just one of those, a situation, and we run into this periodically, where the size limitations of the size of the lot that they're bringing in before does not allow them to ask for the appropriate zoning designation. If this was a 2-acre tract, then they would be allowed to ask for rural commercial. If they were abutting a rural commercial tract, zone parcel, they would be able to ask for rural commercial. Unfortunately, there's a slither that separates them and a rural commercial tract. And so because of the size of the parcel, they're unable to ask for the rural commercial. And so the only eligible commercial zoning designation for them to ask for was the neighborhood commercial.
I guess the follow-up I would have to that is, are those sort of policy decisions that you mentioned, are those simply determined by staff, or are those statutory in some way?
That is within our code.
Okay. Because, I mean, looking at the map, we can see that, I'm not sure how many feet that is, but that's a fairly narrow piece of property there. So it may not be abutting a rural commercial, but, that is so close that it seems kind of a distinction without a difference, in my opinion. But I think your answers have been helpful, so I'll yield back.
Thank you, staff, and Commissioner Grady. Good.
Sure.
Yes.
A question for staff. So, Mr. Price, but for that slither of land separating the two properties we were just discussing, this zoning change requests in all likelihood would meet the criteria of the comprehensive plan, and we would, in all likelihood, approve it?
Yes, sir.
Question, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
That slither of land, you have, what's it being used for now?
I'm not sure.
I like that parcel on the map. Is that what we're talking about?
You can do a street view, I believe, potentially.
Can I answer that question for you?
You can.
Very good. Go ahead.
Okay, the land.
Come on down to the podium so we have you on the microphone. Thank you, sir.
The land on both sides of this business is not being used for anything. The only thing is on that whole strip from 769 up to the railroad track is Mr. Doc Sim and Hattie Sim used to own a convenience store on the corner there. We're running that as a convenience store now. But close to that building, I think the Webbers own it on one side, the Davids own it on the other side. Used to be a small business, but there's no business or anything in there. And we spent about $150,000 in this business. Thank you.
Chair is open to any motions as well as further discussion. Yes, Commissioner Grady.
I would like to make a motion that we send this case 23-019MA to County Council with a recommendation of approval, with the rationale being that a rezoning to a commercial property is consistent with both multiple parcels in the area as well as the designation as a rural activity center.
Second.
May I ask, do I have a second? I have a second from Commissioner Durant. With that second, staff, can we take a vote?
All right, the motion is for approval of case 23-019MA. Those in favor of the motion, for your kind of follow along council, so your yes would be for approval. It would be those in favor, Metz,
Yes.
Durant,
Yes.
Serks,
Yes.
Grady,
Yes.
Yes.
Yonke. All right, motion passes.
Thank you, Commission. Thank you, staff. That will now go as a recommendation of approval to.
Recording in progress.
Thank you. Again, that's going to go to County Council's recommendation of approval. They'll have their meeting at the next zoning public hearing. Next, we're going to move on to our next case, which is going to be item number 3, 5B3, case number 23-021MA.
All right, the next item is case 23-021MA. The applicant is Richard Romero. The location is 7532 Fairfield Road. The applicant is requesting to rezone 1 acre from rural, which is RU, to GC. Hopefully you can hear me. To GC, which is general commercial. Again, staff recommends disapproval of this request. It falls within the neighborhood low density designation of the comprehensive plan. I'll just kind of read from the staff report here. The requested map amendment would be in character with the zoning designations of the parcels north and south of the subject site. Some of those sites are either zoned general commercial or light industrial. However, it's not consistent with the objectives of the 2015 comprehensive plan, as the subject is not located within a contextually appropriate distance from the intersection of a primary arterial or within a neighborhood activity center. Again, in addition, the use is permitted by the requested zoning district, do not support the small-scale neighborhood commercial establishments desired by the comprehensive plan. And again, for these reasons, staff recommends disapproval.
Thank you, staff.
I'm not sure.
Do we have anyone signed up to speak for this one?
There's no one signed up to speak on the sign-in form. Is there anyone present?
Okay, the chair opens this up for discussion with the commission. And any questions for staff? Commissioner Sirks would like to speak.
Is there anyone who wishes to speak either for or against application number 23-021MA, location 7532 Fairfield Road?
Thank you, Commissioner Sirks. That'll be the last call for the public to talk on that one. We'll continue with any questions for staff or comments from the commission. Also, any motions?
Question for staff. Mr.
Yes.
Chairman.
Commissioner Durant.
Staff, in your conclusion, you say this property is not located within a distance from the intersection of the primary arterial within the neighborhood activity center. Would that be the case for the properties directly east and north of the subject site?
Those properties do not meet the objectives of the comprehensive plan for this designation either. Those properties just happen to have that zoning definitely prior to the adoption of the 2015 comprehensive plan, and probably could go back and see those parcels have probably had that designation for quite a while.
Thank you, staff.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
maybe kind of throw something to the planning commission.
Go ahead.
All right, so
Thank you.
I think you have a couple of choices here. One, if you feel that you would still like to hear from the applicant and give them a chance to petition the planning commission for his request, this could be deferred, and we'll just bring this back. It won't come back till September, but it'll give him an opportunity to speak. Or you can go ahead and just take this up on the basis of what's been presented to you, because, I mean, regardless of what the applicant is asking for from a use standpoint, what we're really looking at is a request for a general commercial zoning designation at this location. So you could make your decision based on that also.
Thank you, staff. That is true. We are tasked up here as commissioners to look at this as if there's no building there, and if this is a good fit for this area. So I'll put on the floor any motions.
Chair,
Yes.
I think I would like to just defer this and see if the applicant would like to come and talk next time, just to see what's going on in the, what's happening with this, better picture up.
Thank you, Commissioner Metz. So we have a motion for defer. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. With the second, staff, can you take a vote?
All right, the motion is for deferral of case 23-021MA. Those in favor of that motion, and a yes is agreeing with the deferral. Grady,
Yes.
Metz,
Yes.
Sirks,
Yes.
Durant,
Yes.
Yonke.
Yes.
All right, that motion will be deferred. We'll attempt to put this on the September planning commission agenda.
Thank you. Staff, can we move on to the next item?
All right, the next item is case 23-022MA. The applicant is Jesse Carter. The location is Broad River Road. The parcel is just a little bit less than 30 acres. It's actually 29.96. The applicant is requesting to rezone the property from its existing zoning of light industrial M1 to a PDD, which is Planned Development District. Staff recommends approval of this request. As you'll take note within your package, part of creating a PDD is essentially you're almost creating your own zoning designation with all of your rules and allowances and everything within there. And that is actually what's being reviewed. There are some things that will automatically default to our land development code if it's not referenced, but one of the things staff does is we go and take a look just to make sure. That is why one of the things that you will take note of, especially starting on page 41, that there is actually an ordinance that's been drafted. This is typically something we do after county council has a zoning public hearing and gives first reading to an item. But because, again, this is a PDD, we wanted you to actually see if this is approved, these are the allowances for this development. Going back, which you can probably see a little bit clearer on page 26, under Exhibit C are the permitted uses. According to the applicant, they were going to use the permitted uses that are currently identified under our neighborhood commercial zoning designation with the addition of restaurants with limited service with a drive-through, essentially, because drive-throughs are not permitted in the neighborhood commercial, but again, they're kind of creating their own zoning designation here. So it's easier to spell out each one of the uses versus just referencing the neighborhood commercial. We found that to be very helpful for future, staff that's going to be enforcing this ordinance. So if you, again, take note on page 41 under the site plan, which is identified as Exhibit A, staff took what was presented and we basically spelled it out. So they will be limited to those uses as previously stated, from the buildings to the height, to the number of units, to the square footage. All of those would be limited, and also the reservation of at least 10% of the total area as a parkland or open space. And that is a requirement of the PDD as found in section 26-102, 8C, D, and E.
Would you mind putting the public can see? Thank you. Mayor Sirks, do we have anyone signed up to speak?
We do. The applicant, I guess not the applicant. Is the applicant?
Yes.
Okay.
Go on down to the podium, sir.
Pardon?
Yeah. State your name and address.
My name is Alex DiMaturco. My address is 5 Century Drive, Suite 240, Greenville, South Carolina. Just for clarification, Jesse Carter was the person that filled out the application. Jesse and I are partners in the development company. Currently, the property is zoned M1, and M1 allows for light manufacturing, but it also allows for for retail and warehousing, if you look through what the permitted uses are. We looked to rezone this property about a year ago into GC, and after consultation with the Ballantine I believe it's called Ballantine Community Association, and also with both Councilman Malinowski, previous Councilman Malinowski, and Councilman Bradham. Councilman Bradham suggested the PDD process. One of the reasons is we want to develop and are looking to develop and proposing multifamily with a smaller amount of retail. Rather than being able to do 100% of retail, we scaled it back to about 10% with apartments in the back, which is, of course, a less intrusive traffic use. And that's based on just straight acreage of the property. Our development objectives remain the same, but one of the reasons we're looking for a PDD is it allows a little more control. In other words, we're approving the site plan as well as the zoning. So we're saying that we're going to develop apartments with a small amount of retail. This ensures that process. When you look at from a square footage standpoint, what we're proposing, it is about 93% apartments and 7% retail, so much lower traffic use. We've done a lot of investigations from wetlands to soils investigations, reviewed worked with DOT. I take it that's my time, is that correct? Okay, thank you.
So you can keep going as the applicant. I'm going to give you an extra minute. Go ahead.
Okay. We have worked very closely with DOT and have been collaborating in terms of the improvements that are scheduled or planned for Broad River Road, and our participation in that from a standpoint of being able to help improve the traffic situation there. And we don't have specifics at this point, because we and DOT just haven't gotten that far, other than the agreement that we would be collaborative in terms of providing land and dedicating land to be able to widen the road, and DOT talking about putting in a signal, which we're supportive of at Bickley Road to help improve that. So those are some of the main things. I just wanted to address traffic, the conditions on the property. There's a floodway on the property, which we intend to honor. We will not disturb it in any way. That'll be, in fact, part of the open space requirement that we'll be providing.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Commissioner Zerks?
Daniel Merritt.
So I'm with the engineering company. I'm just here for technical questions, but.
Okay, thank you.
Andrew Allen.
Same as.
Okay. Next, Kim Murphy.
Kim Murphy, 154 Old Laurel Lane, Chapin. There are multiple issues, including with documents presented, and it should be deferred. The ordinance incorrectly states that the property is to be rezoned general commercial. The traffic count increased 500 daily trips between 2021 and 2022. And there are no DOT or penny tax improvements for this road, which is operating at a level D. This is the same proposal as in 2022, except the density of 264 multifamily units has increased with the addition of 3 garage buildings with apartment units above. Because of inconsistencies in Exhibit A and B, staff's report, and the ordinance, the 2 exhibits do not appear to be the same exhibits, A and B, referenced in the ordinance. Exhibit B references in the ordinance is General Development Plan, but Exhibit B in the packet is called Statement of Intent. The layout in Exhibit A, the site plan, does not match the ordinance. The ordinance states there will be 4 garage structures plus 3 garage buildings with units above, a total of 7 garage units. But the site plan only shows a total of 4 garage buildings, which look alike, not the 7 according to the ordinance. And one of those 4 is labeled as garage building with units above, typical, as if all 4 buildings, not 3, have units above. Staff reports indicates that a maximum of 264 units. Exhibit A states 264 proposed units. Exhibit B states approximately 264 units, which will be amongst the 11 three-story buildings. But the ordinance states the plan will be limited to 11 buildings plus density in 3 garage buildings. The ordinance does not specify a maximum number of units or any number of units, but should. Aside from the excessive density, I request that you defer this until you receive acumen documentation and know what you are approving. If you feel you must approve it, nail down the maximum density in the ordinance and disallow bonus density. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Matthew McCommon.
Matt McCommon, 44 Adderley Oak Court, Irma, South Carolina. We live off of Bickley Road in the neighborhood, Adderley neighborhood. And my only concern, the statement I'm making, is just in relation to the traffic right now. Broad River Road's a 2-lane road, and during the school year, I have kids that go to Ballantyne. And in the morning and even in the afternoon, the traffic is just horrendous there, specifically where Bickley runs into Broad River. So my concern with adding commercial and residential multifamily dwelling housing, my concern is just the increase in traffic. Now I know the gentleman spoke to working with the Department of Transportation and coming up with a plan and expanding those roads. But at the end of the day, we don't know when that would happen. And so if you move forward with the development or rechanging the zoning on that, you're just going to increase traffic, which is going to just continue to make, going through that area tenuous at best or terrible. So that was my only concern. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Terry Rowell.
Terry Rowell, 3635 Kennerly Road. I promise not to waste my time calling out acreage plots this time. I'm in agreement that there are too many discrepancies in this proposal right now to vote one way or the other. I think it should be deferred until things are, put in place. The other thing I think we're doing is, I was on that road, Bickley Road, last week, and there was an accident. It's always crowded, but it literally was backed up from 76 to 176 all the way on one side and partway back on the other side. I think we're putting the cart before the horse. I think we need to make the infrastructure improvements before we approve these types of things in the area. Thank you.
Have no one else signed up to speak? Is there anyone who would like to speak for or against?
Do we have any questions for staff? And on the floor for discussion?
Here,
Yes.
question for staff. Bryce, could you speak to the discrepancies they're referencing? I know y'all were looking back and forth, you just trying to figure out what's going on with the.
I would actually have to hear all of those again because it went pretty fast. But
That was only some of them.
what we can do, of course it is, we can add the maximum number of units to the ordinance. That is something that can easily be added. We can cap the number of units that will be allowed there. I mean, they reference 264, so that's what we could definitely add that to the ordinance that will go forward.
Thank you, staff. With that, would we be able to do anything as a planning commission to make that amendment to Exhibit B? Or does that mean we have to defer and then?
That can be a part of your approval. One of the things about a PDD, you can actually make changes to it or make recommended changes to what is actually going forth, you know. Unlike most of your zoning requests that come before you, this one, you can actually ask a bunch of questions and put, you know, certain restrictions on them if you need to, or allowances. So you have an opportunity to actually kind of craft the own zoning for this parcel.
Sure. Question,
Grant,
staff.
yes.
I'm just wondering, Mr. Price, would it be a worthwhile effort to take a look at all of the discrepancies that were pointed out earlier and see if that impacts or affects staff's decision process at all before we take a vote on this?
I don't know what the discrepancies are, if there truly are discrepancies. We'll be happy to look at this, I mean, if you want to, but again, I don't, this is my first time hearing about any discrepancies. And again, just, you know, if they're stated, I mean, she would like to come back up here and state those again, be more than happy to hear that way we can kind of follow along and see, but they were kind of done pretty quickly previously.
Okay, thank you, staff. We can, if as chair I can entertain that, I would then like to let the applicant then have 2 more minutes, and then we could discuss. With this being a PDD, and you just explained that we could like shape this parcel, then let's have a couple more minutes to discuss. So Ms. Murphy, would you come down? We'll give you 2 more minutes to explain the discrepancies that you found to staff.
Thank you. For one of the things that I think was important that Mr. Price mentioned is that you can mold this. And what comes out of here should be in molded form. It is too vague for you to do that right now. And part of that has to do with these discrepancies. Like the very first one, it says that it's supposed to be rezoned on the ordinance to general commercial. This is to a PDD, not general commercial. I'm taking up my time by having you look, but I want you to see that's just one of these discrepancies.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I mean, I don't think you're capping her at a certain time because we want to hear from Ms. Murphy. So I see what she's referring to. So if you look at, there are 2 headings on page 41 where it does talk about going from rural, excuse me. So again, I apologize, but those are, if you want to consider those to just be typos, that we can make that change because what we have before us is M1 going to PDD.
So section 1 should read M1 to PDD,
Yes, so.
not rural.
No, it's rural,
Suggest-
and so we changed that to M1.
So this is just one discrepancy, but there are others like this that I think it should be deferred, go back to the planning staff and have them clean it up. Let me talk about a couple other things. Again, this is supposed to be a formal document that comes out of here. You have that ability. And it deserves more scrutiny because of that. PDDs are different. So if you look at Exhibit A and B in your packets, Exhibit A does not say that it's part of the ordinance. It's easy to assume that that is the site plan that is part of the ordinance that's referenced in the ordinance. But you don't know that. But the site plan, if this is the exhibit that should be part of the ordinance that's referenced there, it does not match the ordinance. You would need a site plan that matches the ordinance, or the ordinance needs to match the site plan.
Would the applicant like to help with some of the discrepancies? Okay, would you want to come on down, maybe take the other podium here?
Sure. Let me be clear about the number of units. It's 264. Let me just start with that. So we can firm that up and have a not-to-exceed amount. The second thing, there are no apartments above the garages. Let me clarify that as well. They're garages only. The third thing is I'm in agreement. You know, we're looking for PDD zoning, not GC zoning. We're very specific about the site plan of where we want to head. If we need to clean up the ordinance in order to do that, I would recommend that if you're so inclined to be able to approve it with those subject to that. I'm trying to think if there was something else that was mentioned, but those were kind of the main items that I heard come up, and hopefully I'm clarifying it.
Thank you.
If you look
Yes.
at Exhibit B in your packet, it's called Statement of Intent. In the ordinance, it's called
General Development Plan.
General Development Plan. So they're two separate documents. That needs to be cleaned up. But the site plan.
You do that, staff?
We looked at that. Typically within a PDD, you give a general development plan. They may have named it one thing as from theirs, but as a heading, and we reference it as Exhibit B as a general development plan for this. It's saying the same thing. I mean, it may have a different name, but it's the same thing. So typically, just every PDD has a general development plan. They may not have called it that, but this is what it is. That's what we label as Exhibit B, and we place that within the ordinance.
With the ordinance, it looks like there's some amendments we would make, like rural to general commercial. So if we decide to make a motion on this, I can see us as a planning commission making edits to the ordinance, because then we're going to send that to county council as a recommendation. So we would edit the text general development plan to match, to say, statement of intent.
Or we could
Is that okay?
Or we could label this general development plan and then put in parentheses, and we could also reference, as they've identified it, in their document. Yes, their statement of intent, they're the same thing. So we have general development plan, quote, statement of intent, quote, it'd be the same thing.
I just want to make sure that what we send to county council is clear.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
And I understand what Ms. Murphy's bringing forth, so we can do that.
Silence that phone, that would help us, thank you. Commissioners, questions at this point? This is a little unorthodox, I know. Thank you for everyone's patience. Hang on, Ms. Murphy.
Comment, Mr.
Yes, Commissioner Durant.
Everything I've heard seems like it can be easily cleaned up by staff, and I'm not sure I've heard anything that would cause us to have to defer this to the next meeting. I am sensitive to the fact that having attended one county, or at least a subcommittee of a county council meeting, they do not want any documents that aren't final and perfect to look at. So anything we forward to them with a recommendation, obviously would need to be cleaned up as best staff can determine.
Thank you, Commissioner Durant. You're reading my mind. I was also at that committee meeting. We want to make sure our document is clean that we send to county council as a recommendation.
Right, and
So if we're looking at the ordinance and making, typo changes, let's put that into our motion.
Yes.
Okay. Seems like Exhibit B. A and B would go along with it, but the ordinance seems to be the legal text of this. Am I correct, staff? Okay. Any other questions? Okay. All right. Ms. Murphy, yes, we're going to give you,
Thank you. If
let's
these-
cap this. Let's do 2 more minutes and then
Okay.
cap it.
If these are the exhibits that are going in there, they need to be cleaned up as well. For example, the gentleman said there are no garage buildings with units above, but Exhibit B says it'll be multifamily units will be spread across among 11 primary buildings with a mix of 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units, as well as 3 garage buildings with units above. So there are other things in here that need to be, to match the ordinance, need to come out, because if it's not said in the ordinance, it's said in the exhibits, and you will have to make sure those exhibits are correct. If you look at the site plan doesn't show the 7 garage buildings. It only shows 4. One of those buildings says garage units with, excuse me, get it out in front of me exactly. If you look at your site plan, I don't know if you can see this little tiny writing
Staff,
here.
can we zoom in on the site plan so everybody can see what we're talking about?
So on the southeast property line, you'll see a note that says garage buildings with units above typical. And you can see the garage building it references. There are 4 garage type buildings exactly like that. So the assumption is that there are going to be 4 garage type buildings with units above. But supposedly, there are a total of 7 garage buildings. So the site plan would have to be adjusted as well.
Minutes. Thank you.
Okay.
Applicant, sir, can you clarify that?
I don't know where the 7 garage units came from. There are 4, and we will eliminate any language that shows that there's apartments above it. There's 264 units, period. None of them above the garages. It will not be, I should say.
But to clarify on my end, I see item A4, 4 garage structures containing no more than 24 garages. Is this a line where we can state something there that clarifies everything? Staff?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I apologize, I was looking for the 7 units that we're referring to, so the 7 within, so there are 4 garage structures. Pretty good garage buildings with units above.
Oh, it looks like it's an addition of the 3 garage buildings with units above and 4 garage structures containing no more than 24 garages. But do we move one of those lines? Because on the site plan, garage building with units above, do we know what TYP stands for? Is it typical? Okay, thank you. And if you have a keen eye, we can count, and we would get 7 there? Oh, 7 throughout the site plan, and then units inside.
4 structures.
4 structures.
4 structures.
4 garage structures containing no more than 24 garages. So 6 in each one, right? Thank you. Commissioners, I'm just leading a discussion here. The motion would be one of my colleagues here for, deny, or defer. But I like to see that we're doing our due diligence here as a planning commission. I appreciate everyone's time today. Let's go ahead and ask Ms. Murphy to take a seat and our applicant as well. And we'll continue like we normally would on a commission. I appreciate everybody. Thank you. Final thoughts of clarity.
Yeah, like I say, it's been a while since we've done a PDD of this sort, and typically when we do PDDs, they're typically more residential based with some levels of commercial surrounding those. And I will tell you that most of them, the site plan that is submitted is conceptual. They don't typically do exact, that's why we're always very mindful of the exact language that spells it out. So sometimes you aren't gonna find, like I said, whether it be this one or whether it have been a residential, PDD in which you're gonna find it, it's just gonna match exactly. What I would look at is, so there are 4 items that I've taken note of. And one, we can make that correction, again, you can do this all on page 41, in which we will make that correction of exactly the district is going from and what it's going to for both of those sections. That can be cleared, but everything that was advertised and referenced is to go to a PDD. We can also include within the ordinance for the site development plan, the limitation of 264 units. Going to section 2B, under the general development plan, we will also make note that it's also identified as a statement of intent. So they'll both, but it still references Exhibit B. And from what I've also seen, so the big one really is items 3 and 4, in which we have. Items 3 and 4, because we have, in this statement of intent, it has that multifamily units will be spread across 11 primary buildings, as well as 3 garage buildings with units above. So we need to clarify whether there will be units above within those garage units, so we can clarify that within the ordinance, and also the number of garage structures that would be there.
Thank you, staff. Commissioners, does anyone have a motion if we went ahead and made these revisions and we found clarity on the number of garages? And this is a PDD, so I feel like we're stepping into like Board of Zoning Appeal area.
No, you're.
In my 4 years, this is pretty unique.
Okay, so this is a good talking point. So if the land development code that we have, the truth of it is this could easily be 2 or 3 times larger than what it is. Because what we would have is your typical zoning designations, your RSLDs, RSMDs, RM, HDs, GCs, and so on. But we would also have, I'm just using a couple for reference, we would also have PDD Summit, PDD Lake Carolina, PDD Loman Homes, just, coming a couple off the top of my head, because those are all design zoning designations. So what you're doing right now, not that you're going to the Board of Zoning Appeals, what you're doing is creating a new zoning district and all of the uses that are in there. And this would be the same kind of conversation we would have if I came in and proposed, let's do a GC2 zoning designation. We listed some uses, and make decisions on whether certain uses should be there, and also what the limitations should be, whether it be on square footage or setbacks or any of those sorts. So that's kind of the kind of conversation we're having right now.
Thank you, staff. With that, as a commission, we can make a motion to approve, deny, or defer. Put that on the floor to my colleagues.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Grant?
I move that project 23-022 MA with the adjustments and corrections mentioned by Mr. Price earlier be forwarded to County Council with recommendation of approval.
Do we have a second? Thank you, Commissioner Metz. With that, we have a motion and a second for approval
So,
that we will make the amendments.
yeah, I want to just make sure for clarification. So
Yes.
we're looking at this, I believe we will remove item 3, which says 3 garage buildings with units above. Unless the applicant has something regarding that. And the 4 garage structures containing no more than 24 garages would seem to match what is on the conceptual plan that was submitted. And in addition, we would need to clarify if there are going to be no units above, then we would have, if there are going to be no units above, then we would then remove that from the ordinance that's being proposed. And one of the things that, again, it's been a while since we've really done this, but what we will do is we will get a cleaner version of what Dave identified as statement of intent, in which we've identified as Exhibit B, to clarify any language that's in here to make sure it matches what ordinance that you recommend approval going forward to county council.
Okay, just to paraphrase that, we have a motion of approval with the amendments and a second. So we would go ahead and we would approve it with these amendments, but you would then bring the document back to us?
No,
To
we
prove-
will send the document forward with those noted recommendations to county council.
Well, let's take the vote, since we have a motion out there with a second.
I'm sorry, who's second?
Commissioner Metz.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so we have a motion for the approval of case 23-022MA. The request is to rezone the parcel from light industrial to a PDD, and within the PDD, there will be a number of edits, primarily on page 41, in which we will clarify that zoning designations that it's going from and to. We will include language which restricts the maximum number of units for the development, or residential units. We will also include identify the general development plan. We will also reference that it is also known as the statement of intent. And I believe we will remove 3 garage buildings with units above, and instead just have 4 garage structures containing no more than 24 garages.
Next
Okay,
vote.
I'm sorry. All right, so those in favor of that motion? Metz,
Aye.
Grady,
Aye.
Yonke,
Aye.
Serks,
Aye.
Durant.
Aye.
Motion passes. No,
Thank you to everyone who came to speak on this case and the commissioners. As Mr. Price just stated, this will go to county council's recommendation approval with the Exhibit A and B in the ordinance clarified.
Yeah, more than likely, instead of going to, I believe, the 25th of July is the scheduled zoning public hearing. This item, from my conversation with the council member, will not go in the July ZPH, but instead it looks like it won't go until the September ZPH. The county council member would like to have a kind of community town hall with his constituents to discuss this request. So that will probably occur between now and the zoning public hearing in September.
Again, to paraphrase for the public, stay tuned to the website for a community meeting that may come up by your councilman. And the zoning public hearing, ZPH, would be end of September. Correct?
That's correct.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Price, ready for the next item?
Okay. Next item is case 23-023MA. The applicant is Kevin Steelman. The applicant is requesting to rezone property located at 111 Pine Wedge Drive, which is, again, a little less than 22 acres, from M1, which is light industrial, to RSLD, which is residential, single-family, low density. Staff recommends approval of this request. Get to the correct agenda. The proposed the location of the zoning request falls within the neighborhood medium density designation of the comprehensive plan. These areas are identified as a transition from neighborhood low density to mixed residential density. The land uses and the character of the areas within this designation should include medium density residential neighborhoods and supporting neighborhood scale commercial. The request would be consistent with the densities and the development standards of the adjacent developments falls within the Willow Lake subdivision, the various phases they've had there, that are both located north and east of the subject parcels. Again, based on the consistency of the request as it relates to the comp plan and also with the various developments, staff recommends approval.
Thank you, staff. Commissioner Serks, anybody signed up to speak?
We have the applicant, Kevin Steelman.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Kevin Steelman, 522 Lady Street. This microphone isn't made for average people. I'm with Land Tech. We're a local residential land developer. We just completed a development of a phase of Willow Lake adjacent to this property. And during that time, the pastor of Willow Lake Church reached out to us to let us know that they had some residual land or excess land that they weren't going to need, or they didn't think they needed to accommodate growth. And so we worked with them over a couple of months to identify a portion of the land that they would not need to support their ministry, and leaving them with the land that they do believe they need to support their ministry. And so we worked with their staff to develop a subdivision of the property that would allow us to purchase a portion of the property and develop it into a single-family neighborhood that would be very compatible with the adjacent development in Willow Lake. And so that's our request, and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, sir.
Next person, Jeff Benson.
Hi, my name is Jeff Benson. I live at 100 White Oak Ridge Lane in Blythewood. I'm the pastor of Willow Lake Church. We have been looking at developing our land. We were zoned light industrial. Our congregation voted to move it to residential to fit into the environment that we're already in. We were approached earlier to build a warehouse on our property. We're already zoned light industrial, so we'd need no rezoning, but we felt that it might hurt the value of the homes in our subdivision where we're really trying to minister. And so we felt like the residential would be more helpful to the values of the homes that are already there, and probably be a blessing to everybody in that subdivision. Sometimes when the warehouse moves in, all sorts of other problems move in with it, and so we felt that that would be the best thing. So actually our whole congregation voted to approve this as well. So we are very excited about that possibility. So.
Next up, Joe Henry.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. My name is Joe Henry. I live at 86 Sunset Maple Court. The reason I'm speaking is because that address is in Willow Lake subdivision. So I won't be redundant and repeat what you've already heard, but so the fact that I am at the church as well as in the subdivision, I have feet in both parts of this topic. We do have a number of members of our church who live in the Willow Lake subdivision. I'm a resident, our resident homeowners in a subdivision. They are all in approval of this. So I just wanted to let you know that our church body, those who live within the subdivision, are pleased with this opportunity. We do feel, I feel very strongly that because it's a low density proposal, it's consistent with the county comprehensive plan, it's consistent with the adjacent developments, it feels like a good fit. As the pastor said, we did have an opportunity to put up a warehouse, and we unanimously felt like that was not a fit. Our church has been in this community for 20 years, and we feel very much like part of the community, and we wanted whatever we put forward to be something that fit within the community and was not something that was well outside of what was already there. So that was our goal, and I think we've met that. So we would appreciate your consideration and hopefully your recommendation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else sign up to speak?
Anyone else out there need to talk on this property? Okay, if not, this is opened up to the floor now for my commissioners. Discussion, questions for staff, or a motion?
Question, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Grant?
Question for staff. I've heard the name Willow Lake community mentioned. Is that the community off to the right and to the left on the map? I mean, off to the right on the map here, all of those subdivisions?
Yes, sir. As you can see, most of the area that's come up in some form of, I don't know, blue, aqua, whichever details you want to get with the colors, is part of the Willow Lake subdivision.
Here.
Yes, Commissioner Grady?
I would like to make a motion that we send case number 23-023MA to County Council with a recommendation for approval.
Thank you, Commissioner Grady. Do we have a second? Could you take a?
All right, those in favor, Durant,
Aye.
Search,
Aye.
Grady,
Aye.
Metz,
Aye.
Yonke.
Aye.
That motion passes.
Thank you. That goes to a recommendation of approval. It's going to go to County Council. Mr. Price, is this the same situation where our council men and women have been wanting to have it go the next month or maybe the?
No, sir. Don't believe that this will apply in this particular case. At least I haven't heard from the council
This could be
member.
the July
Yes.
zoning. Gotcha. Later this month. Thank you. Okay. Then if we're ready, the next item, please.
The next item is case 23-024MA. The applicant is Harry Walsh. The location is on Kennerly Road. The applicant is requesting to rezone 3.08 acres from PDD to PDD. Essentially, this is an amendment to the previously approved PDD. Staff recommends approval of this request. Sorry. This falls within the neighborhood medium density designation of the comprehensive plan. And looking at the objectives of the plan, including the desired development pattern and the zoning designations that are identified as being consistent with requests for the neighborhood medium density. This particular, what's proposed before you would be similar to those, that zoning designation. So for that reason, staff recommends that this be approved. In addition, it's also consistent with the character of the existing residential area from a pattern standpoint and also from zoning designations. If you take a look at within your package, starting on page 63, previously, when this PDD was approved, this section, a little more than 3 acres, was originally designated to allow standalone garages. It was a new one for me. I guess it was never developed, so what's being proposed is instead to allow 9 single-family lots. Looks like the minimum size for the lots would be 12,066. The PDD is pretty much going to lock them into, to the exhibit that you see on, has been labeled as Exhibit C, which is on page 64. It's a conceptual plan, but this is pretty much what the layout is going to have to be like. So again, for these reasons, staff recommended approval of this request.
Staff? Commissioner Sirks, who do we have to sign up to speak?
Our first person signed up to speak is Kim Murphy.
Kim Murphy, 154 Old Laurel Lane, Chapin. This case should be deferred because of missing documents, inaccurate and omitted information. The application is a mess. A major change in density, use, and traffic flow of an already approved PDD, such as this case, requires the proposal to be submitted as a new PDD, like the Broad River Road PDD you just saw. However, that was not done here. For this reason, it should be deferred. You should also have in your packet the existing PDD ordinance for the entire 53-acre tract with the original development standards that apply that you may be removing without knowledge. The documents enclosed in no way indicate what is in the adopting ordinance. The most significant issue is that per code, a PDD must front on a paved road. This 3-acre-long narrow strip fronts Miles Bowman Road. Miles Bowman is a county-maintained dirt road. But you wouldn't know that because nowhere in the staff's report is it documented. The report does note, however, that there are no sidewalks on Miles Bowman. Of course not, it's a dirt road. Is the developer going to pave the road at his cost? Or are the taxpayers in Richland County going to pay for it with the penny tax? If the latter, the county will be using taxpayers' money to facilitate this developer, and I believe all taxpayers in Richland County would be enraged. I can say with certainty that property owners on the road beyond the proposed subdivision do not want it paved. At one time they did until it was discovered the county would take their land and front yards for road right-of-way. Timing is interesting here. On July 18th is third reading of an ordinance to remove the provision that allows property owners to object to their road being paved with penny tax. Removal of this provision will allow the county to pave dirt roads for developers. Please ask council members before July 18th to vote no. Also, traffic characteristics on the report list the road as Hollingshed, and the conclusion states that the request is consistent with the character along Hollingshed, but the road is Kennerly, not Hollingshed. The report states that the maximum number of units is 9, but this number is not spelled out in the PD or DD ordinance. Please defer. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Verby. Commissioner Sirks, who's next?
Next person signed up to speak is Gail Hayden.
Gentlemen, thank you. Gail Hayden. I live at 1043 Miles Bowman Road. I've never been to a planning council meeting.
Welcome.
And I just met Kim Murphy today, and I thank her for her advocacy. My brother's a civil engineer. I didn't get any of those genes, so all of these numbers are confusing. We've lived on the property 21 years. We own, I don't know if you can switch to a map to show the bigger area. To the right, there's 2 5-acre plots down Miles Bowman Road, right past the 3-acre. Up, yeah, go north. Yeah, those 2 5-acre plots are what we own and what we live on. Anyway, we've always, when we first moved there in 2001, we were told that 3 acres was owned by Mungo Company It was a buffer zone to protect the Ascot residents, and that one day it might be turned into storage units for the Ascot owners, boats, RVs, toys, things like that. This is new to us with a new development. We are not in favor of paving the road. Although I consented in 2019, I removed that consent, as Ms. Murphy has indicated. We are concerned. We do not know, and I think one of the staffers mentioned that when you get a PDD, you basically create your own zone. So this developer, even though he could come in and say there are going to be 9 houses, it could be, anything could change. Everything's subject to change. Anyway, I would not approve of this, would request that the discrepancies be corrected and we receive more information on the plans for this building and the ordinances. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Next person signed up to speak is Lisa Kynard.
Gentlemen, Ms. Kiner was supposed to be here today. She is our neighbor down at the end of the dirt road. Her husband had a major heart attack and died this morning. So she is not here, but she was vehemently opposed to this, and that's all I can say on her behalf.
Thoughts are with her and her family.
Next person is Michael Bell.
Michael Bell, 212 Traburn Circle, in Ascot on the other side. I just came primarily for information because I saw the signs and a little confused when it said changing from the same thing to the same thing, but I called and said it was because of more density than it had been previously done. I wasn't sure how much property it was, whether it was a whole like 500 acres or, you know, what section. So I came out of curiosity, but I would, it really wouldn't affect us, I don't think very much, but I certainly think I would align myself with the folks on the road. If it's something that they don't approve of, then I certainly would be for that. I do know that because of development up Kennerly, there are going to be, I think, I understood, about 90 houses. So the traffic situation probably, you know, will get worse. And schools are overflowing in the area. I do know that. I checked on that. So I would just throw myself with the weight of the folks there. But I do appreciate the process that you go through and allow people to speak their mind. Thank you very much.
Coming out.
Next person up is Terry Rowell.
Terry Rowell, 3635 Kennerly Road, Irmo, South Carolina. I guess I'm up here speaking because the dirt road is the thing that I'm concerned about, because I also have a dirt road on my property. And I am totally against council taking over dirt roads and paving them at will. I think it's an overreach of government. And I think the people who live on a dirt road should come together and decide whether or not their dirt road is paved or not. In addition to that, something else that was brought up that greatly concerns me. As a penny tax person, I don't think we should ever pave a dirt road for a developer. I think a developer should be required to pave whatever dirt road or any other road that they're going to be using in their development. And if that means paving the part down to where the dirt road is and then leaving the rest of the dirt road dirt, then the people on that end of the road need to make that decision, not the county. Thank you.
This will probably be a topic we take up with our comp plan as we look into that next year, right?
I mean, the paving of dirt roads.
Be one of those. Yeah.
We can actually have someone from county staff come in and speak to you about what it is exactly they'll be doing over the next, I'm trying to get someone in, hopefully by the next meeting, to come in and speak to you about this issue, but.
Thank you.
We do not have anyone else signed up to speak. Is there anyone else who would like to speak for or against?
Yes, come on down, sir. Just state your name and address, and Commissioner Sirks, if you can note it.
I'm Harry Walsh. We had the homeowners association from Ascot come to my partner and say that they had no use for the property and they would like to find a buyer. Well, we decided to buy it and thought that this would be a good use for it. The way it's zoned right now, I don't think anybody can tell me what goes on it and how many units would go on it. I mean, it's a standalone garages. So you've got 3 acres. How many could you put on there? 40? I don't know. But the Ascot Homeowners Association was in favor of selling this property. They don't have a use for it.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Walsh, could we get your address?
Yeah, just for the record, Mr. Walsh, when someone comes down to speak, we ask for the name and address. Or give it to staff if you can. You understand? Yeah. The staff, help him out, please. Just write down his address. Thank you. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. In the
You can come back and state it for the record, and then we can put it on.
hold up. We can move on? Okay, we're going to continue. All right, fellow commissioners, we're going to open this up on the floor for discussion as well as additional questions to staff.
Yeah. Mr. Chair,
Yes.
just to address something. You know, looking at what staff did take a look at the previous ordinance for the development of this parcel and the others that were part of it. I can tell you back when this was done, many of the ordinances were very vague. You know, is looking at the previous PDD, which we actually tried to spell out a lot of the restrictions for it. You know, this was the ordinance itself. Basically just said rezone from rural to PDD and then identified the parcels. Even the, whatever we want to call it, I guess, general development plan, really didn't say much, just gave percentages. And one of the things identified is that 4% of the land, which would be the 3 acres, was identified as a common area with attached garages. So that's what we, you know, what we presented to you was relatively simple. It's more like a typical rezoning request. However, once this goes to county council, if county council gives first reading approval to this request, we will craft the ordinance at least for this 3 acre tract that is before you to set the limitations. And the limitations that's presented were for 9 parcels, and that is the maximum that will be allowed there. That is unless county council deems it necessary to increase those numbers, but we will go by what was presented to us in the staff report, in the submittal, and limit it to 9 units.
Thank you, staff. I might have missed this, so I just want to ask it. Page 62, the original map amendment, it shows existing and proposed. Where is this on the map? And Are there any discrepancies here or any concerns with this part of it?
No, sir. That's what came in on the original PDD. As you can see, just looking at what's deemed to be existing, they have existing rural 3 acres. And then on the sketch plan, I guess, that's below it, you can see they identify that as common area. But if you take note of the legend next to it, where it says proposed, has common area with detached garages. And I think as Mr. Walsh previously stated, yeah, there are no limitations on that. So if somebody came in and said, want to put 3 garages on there, I guess they could, and they wanted to put more. There's nothing from a staffing standpoint in which we could actually limit them for what could go on that site.
That's just to reiterate, even this far into it, the only change we're looking at is page 63. The rest of the parcel, the rest of the acres, there was not a change to it.
No, just this.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
So just in an effort to be transparent and have everybody's address in there, we have the applicant's address. If we want to go ahead and read that into the record.
Thank you.
So it is 852 Sandbar Road, Chapin, South Carolina, 29036. And that was for the applicant, Mr. Walsh.
Sorry, could you say that again?
Sorry, the applicant's address is 852 Sandbar Road, and that's Chapin, South Carolina, 29036.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners, further discussion, questions, or a motion?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Commissioner Grady.
All right, so we heard a number of people raise the issue of the potential paving of this road. I want to give staff the opportunity to clarify the situation. Is the claim that was made accurate, that if this rezoning were approved, that it would in any way require the paving of Miles Bowman Road?
It does not.
Okay.
No, the road just has to be able to accommodate the projected traffic needs of the proposed development, and that's something that we will look at once plans are submitted. And of course, if this being a county road, then we'll work with our Public Works Department to make sure any improvements that are necessary, especially those that can be done on behalf of the developer, by the developer, are done.
And so on page 64 in our packet, we have this document labeled conceptual plans. The intent is that would be an exhibit to an ordinance that would be proposed for council to consider?
That is correct.
Thank you.
I have a question for staff. Pull the aerial map up again, just in the overall character of the area. If we look at Miles Bowman Road, so this is all a dirt road. Currently, very few other residences that use this as their primary in and out.
It looks like probably about 3 parcels are developed, well, 3, 4, 5, probably about 6 parcels are developed that you would use this section of Miles Bowman.
I'm gonna get out of the PDD mindset for a minute, just so if it was 9 residences to be addition to this, just for the character of what's there, there's 6 existing ones that 15. Commissioners' thoughts and motions.
Yeah, just please take note that Miles Bowman Road, actually, you will see there's actually a right-of-way for Miles Bowman Road. But once you get to the point where Mr. DeLage has his pointer, that becomes an easement So any county maintenance and ownership would stop at that point.
So just for clarity, if you traveled east on Miles Bowman Road and you reached where that parcel line is, county maintenance stops there. And it's the neighbor's responsibility?
Yeah, for anything going back that far, going
Okay.
east, that's private property.
Private.
So we got easement that serves those homes that are located along that section.
Thank you. Further discussion? Commissioners?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Cirques.
move that we send case number 23-024MA to County Council with a recommendation for approval.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Durant. With the motion and a second, staff, can you take a vote?
All right, we have a motion for the approval of case 23-024MA from PDD to the amended PDD. Those in favor, should be a yes, of that motion. Grady,
Aye.
Metz,
Aye.
Durant,
Aye.
Cirques,
Aye.
Yonke.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you, staff. Thank you, public. Thank you, commissioners. That goes as a recommendation of approval, and the county council will have a meeting the fourth Tuesday, right? Yes, for the
Yes.
zoning public hearing. Thank you. Okay, staff, we're going to move on to our next case.
All right. Next item is case 23-025MA. The applicant is Austin Watts. The applicant is requesting to rezone 2.6 acres, which is comprised of two parcels, from rural, which is RU, to rural commercial. Excuse me, resident, excuse me. Is it rural commercial? Which is RC. This area is designated as neighborhood low density. And the plan recommends commercial development with within a neighborhood activity center and within a contextually appropriate distance from the intersection of a primary arterial. Subject parcel is not located at a traffic junction and is not within a contextually appropriate distance of an intersection or neighborhood activity center, which meets the objectives of the comp plan. The plan also discourages strip commercial development or fragmented leapfrog development patterns along corridors. That's read as the comp plan currently identifies the objectives for neighborhood low density. However, and for those reasons, staff recommends disapproval. But we want to point out that, that looking at the comp plan, that the request may not result in strip commercial or fragmented leapfrog development due to the approvals of the previous map amendments. You can see that under your zoning history. So there've been a number of parcels there that have been approved. You can see it kind of in the pink east of the subject site to neighborhood commercial. They have gone against the comprehensive plan. However, without the updating of the comprehensive plan for this area, the staff's recommendations will continue to be for disapproval. Another thing to point out, and this goes back to a case we just had earlier today. Looking at the designation, when we talk about neighborhood low density and the type of uses that fit within there, they're looking for more neighborhood scale commercial development within this. So that's something that you typically will find more in the NC zoning designation versus the rural commercial, because I think as we stated during, I think your first case that you heard tonight, or this evening, afternoon, it's been a long day here, that we feel that the rural commercial is a little more intensive, also allows for larger scale type developments than you might necessarily find based on a neighborhood commercial type scale uses. I think it's stated, at the request of Commissioner Grady, I actually kind of read a kind of comparison of the rural commercial versus the neighborhood commercial, so you can see that there are a number of uses that are a little more impactful found in the rural commercial than neighborhood commercial designation. So with that being said, this is kind of like, you can almost an argument of the opposite of the previous case that you heard in the beginning. I hate to kind of go back to another case, but it's the opposite. In this particular case, based on the designation, location, and the previous zoning requests that have taken place, we just feel that the rural commercial request is not appropriate. And so again, for those reasons, we recommend disapproval.
Staff, if you have any questions, ask people and understand this. I understand it as a smaller parcel, but could have more uses. That's the opposite of what we looked at with our first case?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Okay, Commissioner Sirks, who is signed up to speak?
The person listed as the applicant on the form is John Kelly Athley.
Please remember to state your name and address. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. My name is John Kelly Ashley. I'm with Kimley Horn and Associates, engineering consulting firm. We're located at 200 South Tryon, Charlotte, North Carolina. Thank you for the Planning Commission and planning staff for the time allocated to this map amendment. As planning staff has stated, the objective would be to combine the two parcels in question into zone from residential or from rural to rural commercial. The combined parcel would be 2.6 acres. The main point of the applicant would be that the council has previously kind of established a precedent and a history for map amendments in this area, as you can see in the yellow that's shown on the screen, from rural to commercial. Right across Three Dog Road is a general commercial zoning, which would be an even more would allow from even more general uses than the rural commercial zoning that we were applying for. And that is in the five stated cases in staff report, two being that's listed under the heading of zoning history for the general area. Two of those were previously zoned rural and now are zoned general commercial, and the other three were previously zoned as rural and now rezoned to neighborhood commercial. As far as the overall site, it's bounded by four different uses. One, in staff report, is general commercial, as previously mentioned, across Three Dog Road. To the east is neighborhood commercial, and to the north is railroad right-of-way.
30 seconds to wrap up. If you have any other final thoughts, since you're our applicant.
That basically concludes the point of that.
Sounds good. Thank you, sir. Hey, Commissioner Sirks, anyone else signed up to speak?
Yes. Next person who signed up to speak is Kim Murphy.
Kim Murphy, come on down. We're going to need your address again.
Thank you. Kim Murphy, 154 Old Laurel Lane. I am just trying to make sure you have the right information, and I know staff is very busy. They've got a lot going on, but I think it's important that you have the right information. In this case, I support staff's recommendation to disapprove. Not only do I agree with their rationale, but the traffic is horrendous on Highway 76, which is operating at a level service D. Lake Murray Elementary is a couple blocks away at this intersection on Three Dog Road, but until there are adequate road improvements causing more traffic congestion with curb cuts right at this intersection will create a more dangerous situation. Just because there are past rezonings that took place and were approved that are similar to what the developer wants doesn't mean it's okay to use that as the sole reason. Interstate 26 improvements, when complete, will ease traffic on Highway 76, but not cure it. The additional traffic will be put on Highway 76 from the numerous subdivisions in Lexington County, just up 76 to the north, in Chapin, that are either under construction or that made it into the pipeline before Lexington County Council downzoned large tracts of land and added the Lake Murray overlay on the Lexington County portion of the lake. But this will only compound the traffic issues that we have here. Please consider the staff's recommendation.
Thank you.
And the next person signed up to speak is Terry Rowell.
I'm sorry, I must put my name on the wrong thing.
Okay, no worries.
No, I'm good.
Thank you.
Okay, we have no one else signed up to speak on case number 23-025MA.
Thank you, Commissioner Sirks. Commissioners, this is now open on the floor for discussion or questions of staff. Also up for any motions.
Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Metz.
kind of question for staff.
Yes.
Mr. Price, when you have the parcel that is to the west of this is general commercial, and you're going across the street and you have neighborhood commercial around it, and in between is this, is that leapfrogging from going across the street? General commercial to the west on that south, what is that, the southwest corner?
I think, I don't know if you would necessarily call it leapfrogging now, especially when you look at the other tracts of land that have been rezoned in that area. Again, during the, if you go back to the previous staff reports for those other parcels, basically it's very similar language. We consider it to be leapfrogging, but again, because the comprehensive plan has not been changed, and we basically go by what the comprehensive plan states for that area. The main reason, one of the main reasons for our recommendation for disapproval. That parcel on the western portion of it, that's zone general commercial. I believe that the record show that was done in '06. So of course that would have been done prior to the adoption of the 2015 comprehensive plan. So I'm not sure exactly what the comprehensive plan that was in place during that time would have recommended for that location. Also, might have been different approach to rezonings back in '06.
Does that answer your question? So what I see from the map and our packet is that's undeveloped GC sitting right there. So it could be developed and no one would have to come before us.
That is correct.
Okay. I'm up for further discussion or any motions.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Durant?
I move that we forward project 23025 MA to County Council for recommendation of disapproval.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
second that motion.
Thank you. Second from Commissioner Sirks. With that, staff, go ahead and take a vote.
We have a recommendation of disapproval for case 23-025 MA. So a yes vote would be for that disapproval. Those in favor, Durant,
Yes.
Sirks,
Aye.
Grady,
No.
Metz,
Oh,
Yonke.
I'm gonna go yes.
All right, the motion passes. This will be forward to county council with a recommendation of disapproval.
I'd like to share my feelings as chair, since it kind of fell on me there. Can you pull the map again? I looked at the zoning history, and I started here in 2019. So I remember the 2019 rezoning of that, but it appeared like it was in the back, like to the parcels that were already changed. I don't know if I was here in 2018, if I would have had that same thought process. So, thank you. Again, this is just going to be our recommendation that goes to county council. They're going to have their meeting on the 4th Tuesday, so come on out later this month. Staff, can we go ahead and go to our last case, I believe?
Last item is case 23-026 MA. The applicant is Tony Lawton. The applicant is requesting to rezone 1.14 acres along at 113 Cease Road from rural RU to general commercial GC. This, I'm sorry, we don't have it in our zoning history, but this parcel did appear before the planning commission previously. Tell me, remember that recommendation was. So it did appear before you previously, and it was disapproved at the county council level. So again, principally, staff recommends disapproval of this map amendment, as it would not be consistent with their general objectives outlined in the comprehensive plan for a neighborhood medium density designation. However, the proposed zoning would be in character with the adjacently zoned GC district parcels. So I want to make sure I point something out to you, so as Mr. Lage gets this up. So if you take a look on, if you look in your booklet, while he's pulling this up, but on page 78, you'll take note that there's some, there are 3 parcels in there of a purple, which essentially those actually should be red. But they both stand for general commercial. Somewhere in our mapping system, it was still designated as C3, which actually became GC. So when this was being compiled, it just came up under the color purple, but they're both are, the red and the purple both stand for general commercial designations.
Mr. Price, you said in the zoning history, the Plan Commission voted this down in the past? Was it for this same designation?
No, I didn't say with the planning commission, I know county council.
County council voted it
but
down?
I don't have that history, I apologize.
Was it rural to general commercial?
Yes, same request. They had to wait a year to
Okay.
come back in.
So this was a year ago, but not too far.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Sirks, anyone signed up to speak?
The applicant is here, Tony Lawton.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner and Commissioners, as well as staff. My name is Tony Lawton, 158 Bell Valley Lane, Columbia, South Carolina, representing the owners of 113 Cease Road. As Mr. Price mentioned, yes, I came before you a year ago, where you guys approved it going from RU to GC. The property in the front of it is currently Zone C3. Property to the right and to the left is GC or C3. This went before City Council from the simple fact that there was a miscommunication between Councilman Malinowski and myself, of which I've had some documentation as it relates to the miscommunication of whether or not I spoke with him in reference to this particular property, of which I did. Since then, once it was approved to go before them, we have since spent numerous dollars on the architectural plans, surveys, things of that nature. This is a economic development project of which trying to bring the family business back to the area. I have since then spoken with Mr. Councilman Branham, who was the chairperson at the time, who recommended approval of this to share even more of the project and what it is that we're doing to move forward. So I'm just asking that you guys approve this once again so that we could bring that family business back to the community. Thank you.
Sure. Mr. Sirks, anyone else?
M. Murphy.
One more time. Come on down, Ms. Murphy.
Kim Murphy, 154 Old Laurel Lane. Yes, this was put in front of the Planning Commission, and County Council denied it. And it wasn't just because of a miscommunication thing. Mr. Malinowski said that it was because it was on a dirt road. And if you pull up your map, you'll see that it actually is a dirt road that crosses the railroad track into Friars Gate. Potentially this paving of this road with county tax dollars, which would be needed. I mean, they need to have a dirt road in order to develop this. They can put housing units up there. I think is it 16 maybe per acre, that we'd be using taxpayer dollars to fund this for a developer. It's unfortunate that you didn't have that history in your packet since it was fairly recent. But tomorrow night is the public hearing for the road ordinance that's going to be removing the 25% threshold that would allow property owners on the road to object to the road paving. We're hoping it's not going to pass. The 25% of the owners do not want the road paved. But if this goes on, if you approve this on a dirt road and that 25% passes, that means you're going to be opening up the area into Friars Gate for more development, and this paving is going to be done with taxpayer dollars. I'm very much opposed to this. Anyhow, it's on a dirt road. You can't develop on a dirt road. You won't be able to do that. If they put in high-density housing, one of the council members, Livingston, said that it's an extremely busy area right there, that it would be dangerous, and that was one of the reasons he was opposed to it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Murphy. And if you caught me looking down there, I'm trying to pull up the street view. Staff, can you pull up street view in this app or in Google? I want to see that intersection there where it turns into a dirt road. That's the same picture I saw. You zoom in, there's like a big van coming down that street or a bus. The image says May 2023 and it's got the notice sign up. Is that for this? There's another one. Just been out there. We need to clean those up. Okay. open this up to the commission for discussion and motion. Question for staff, just looking at the map. Is that a different owner across the street? You see all the cars?
At least from the assessor's database, it appears to be different owners.
There is a business operating at the end of that dirt road.
I don't know if I'd call it that without doing the research, but it could just be someone.
Or that residence owns a lot of cars.
Could be.
But the only access to this area is down Seas Road, which is dirt road. Is this a county maintained road?
It's not showing up as road maintenance authority when I click on it. I'd have to do a little bit more digging because typically when you don't see a parcel line here where you can't click on it and highlight it, that there's some kind of right of way associated with it. Even down here, it looks like there's some that terminates where the railroad is.
Discussion, commissioners, or a motion? I'm reading the staff's conclusion again. They recommend disapproval, but they also say, however, that the proposed zoning would be in character with the adjacent zoned general commercial parcels.
Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Grant.
Question for staff, just for clarification. The parcels that are colored purple, which is C3, I think you said that's essentially general commercial?
Yes, okay. Those parcels are actually zoned GC. But when I can't remember when we did it, but when we converted to more of digital maps, you'll find a couple of parcels may have been lost when they were translating from the previous zoning to the current zoning. But again, C3 and GC are basically the same zoning designation. So we're making those necessary corrections. So that parcel is, those three that you see in purple that are C3 are actually GC. And we'll just make those changes probably by the time this gets to the zoning public hearing. We just became aware of it.
Any other thoughts, comments from my fellow commissioners? I see this block as all GC per the zoning, but it's still undeveloped in a lot of ways. Staff, we had a training last year off-site, might have been last year or the year before. It talked about developers, when they develop, they do need to make their own driveways, entryways in and out. I'm unaware of this paving dirt road situation, so I'm just trying to go off of what I know and what you guys have trained us with. If they were to develop, they would be doing their ways in and out per DOT. Does it sound familiar at all? Like DOT standards, access roads to it?
All right, so what you have before you is the actual, a rezoning request. You know, here's the parcel. We would like to change the zoning to allow certain uses on that parcel and all of the development standards to go along with developing that parcel. However, any parcel that comes before staff to actually develop the site is required to submit plans. And part of the plans is that we will also review access. So if there are going to be necessary improvements to the road, that will be required. If they will have to give us, some cases where they have to dedicate part of the parcel to help bring the road into compliance, that is the case. If the road is not sufficient to handle traffic in both ways and does pose a hazard, that was something they would have to address before they would get approval to develop the site. So there are other things that we'll be looking at. But what you have before you, I guess you can look and make a decision on whether, whether the site can be developed. That's something. Again, the zoning doesn't necessarily mean it can be developed or will be developed. It's just that what is the zoning appropriate at that location is what you have before you. Just looking at that picture, there are some things that would need to be addressed, especially you're talking about the ingress, egress from that site. Anything else that may have been there is either non-conforming. I think you were looking at some of the other parcels in the area, either non-conforming, or it could be illegal. We'll have to take a look into this, make that determination.
Thank you, staff. Commissioners, thoughts, motions?
Sure.
Yes, Commissioner Sirks.
Just briefly on this one, I understand the four parcels that are either near or adjacent to this parcel are GC, but that, to me, standing on its own is not enough to make a recommendation for approval if it doesn't fit within the or if it would be inconsistent with the objectives of the comprehensive plan.
Thank you, Commissioner Sirks. Is this a motion?
If there's no other comments, I'd make a motion, but I'd yield any time for any other comments.
My thought with this one is a year ago, this was here before me, and Planning Commission voted approval. If none of my fellow colleagues are going to make a motion, I'm just going to be consistent with my motion from a year ago, and I make a motion to approve.
Second.
A second from Commissioner Grady. With that, let's take a vote. Staff, please.
Sorry, get my notes right. All right, so the motion is for approval of case 23-026 MA. Rezoning request is from rural to general commercial. I guess prior to us taking the vote, do you want to state your reasons for going against staff's recommendation?
Yes, I'll state my reasoning is based off of prior decision when I was on commission, as well as staff's however sentence that the proposed zoning would be in character with the adjacent general commercial district. looking at this map in front of us, which parcel doesn't look like the others? You're saying the purple is supposed to be red. Oh, it would be in character with the surrounding parcels, as the staff is stating.
Correct. Okay.
Take the vote, please.
All right, those in favor, and the motion is for approval of this case. So a yes is for approval. Those in favor, Sirks,
No.
Metz,
Yes.
Durant,
Yes.
Grady, Yonke.
Yes.
Oh, that motion passes.
This goes as our recommendation to County Council. It'll be the fourth Tuesday of the month of July, which you're familiar with, it seems. All right. Thank you. That was case number 8, which wraps up item 5. We now move on to number 6, Chairman's Report. I just want to add my gratitude to my peers who are here with us today. I miss those that couldn't make it. So thanks again to my fellow commissioners for all their time and effort they invest each month in this commission. Staff received our available dates for our off-site training and will brief us in the planning director's report. We can move on to our planning director's report number 7.
There's your planning director's report. If you look under report of council, you can see that the actions that council took at their last zoning public hearing meeting as it relates to some of the cases that you previously heard. And as you can see, there are a number of cases that were deferred because council had a number of wanted to have a number of community meetings to discuss it further with their constituents. So you will see a lot more cases, most likely with the next report of council. As the PC orientation and training, looking at the dates that you have, and we're still trying to secure speakers for the training, but we're looking at August. I think y'all had the dates August 10th and the 11th and the 18th. It'll be one of those 3 days, but we hope to let you know like quickly when that will be. But we just wanted to make sure that we could secure the speakers for that training.
Anything else for the planning director's report?
I would want to point out one thing, and I do this real quickly. I was looking at, a couple of the cases you had, especially the last one, you had a little more discussion on it when you vote. I think sometimes we have to kind of look at the, I know y'all do a lot of consent agenda, which I'm not against, but you remember sometimes when you do the consent because, well, it went along with the staff report and also nobody showed up. That sometimes that can leave out some discussion that may be relevant for the case coming back or other parcels in that general area. So just something to kind of think about, when you're doing your consent agenda.
So for today, we just had B2 on the consent agenda.
Right. But something like that's probably, it makes sense. It's clear. But I mean, anytime you start looking at other designations, especially commercial in some natures, you should, I'm not saying you shouldn't have a consent agenda, but I'm saying sometimes things can change in an area that you may want to be able to kind of refer back to previous decisions, especially if it's denied at a council level and it comes back, in a year or two when you're still here on the planning commission.
I think this would be a good topic for our training to talk about the consent agenda and how useful it is and like what you're saying there.
Yes. I will tell you that even from a staff, if there's something that we think that is worthy of a discussion, and y'all are looking to put it on a consent agenda, we will kind of state, make a request that you not put it on consent because I feel that that topic is worthy of discussing. Okay, but that is it for us. I'm sorry.
We got-
Mr. Matthew Smith has something quickly to give each one of you.
So the handout that you guys got is just a brief breakdown of literature, preparing your mind and your time to the comprehensive plan that is to come. Last time we did it was in March 15th, 2015. It's when it was adopted. It takes about 18 months for this process to go through. We're at the cusp of that 18 month. So we need to go ahead and take movements towards this new comprehensive plan, planning to plan, whether it's getting our budget together, our timeline. The literature I had given you just is kind of a quick breakdown of how things have done and been in the past, and for you guys just to start getting your ducks in a row for that situation.
Yes.
I think he's saying time to start planning to plan for the comprehensive plan.
Absolutely.
I know it's kind of redundant, but if you read the literature in itself, the worst thing you can do is just step right into this without knowing what you're doing. A lot of times you will jump into a project and you won't read the instructions. So that's what I'm trying to say is read the instructions before we begin this process, because it takes some time and it takes some real planning to do it. And it's a lot. It involves housing, economics, there's 10 elements between existing conditions, cultural resources, community facilities, transportation, priority investment, land use, the list goes on. And you can just see we barely touch base with it here with just land use. And as a planning commission, you must establish and maintain the planning process that results in the systematic preparation, continuing evaluation, and updating of the comprehensive plan. The commission must use this process for each comprehensive plan element as South Carolina Code 6-29510A.
Thank you. So it sounds like this is our legal tasking. Okay.
That is correct.
I'm just thinking that I've been working on the land development code since 2019, and you said it's going to take 18 months. Well, that took longer than 18 months. So yeah, let's plan to plan and plan some time. Can we talk about this during our training orientation? How we get started on the right foot with this? We could plan our commission meetings on having time at the end of each meeting to work on this. We could plan ahead for workshop sessions that would work best for our time. So that we go in this the right way and serve our county, because that's what we're up here for.
Yeah, our goal is to have a speaker at the training that has done a comprehensive plan very recently, because there will be an added element that no one has done, which is the resiliency element. And so that'll be a new element that we'll have to deal with on the fly.
I am looking at the Planning Commission agenda, and I thought we were in the 29201 zip code.
I keep telling these guys to change it, just
Okay.
FYI.
Thank you. I don't know, my eyes went blurry after a while. Okay, so can we move on to number 8? Is the chairman report complete? Checking or zip code? This is happening. Okay.
The planning director's report is complete.
Fellow commissioners, number 8, any other items up for discussion? All right. And thank you. If there's nothing else to talk about, then the chair makes a motion for adjournment. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Price, please take a roll with a show of hands. Aye. Hand.
Aye.
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 You're dismissed. Thank you, everyone.